Happy New Year, Phillies faithful. And what a way to ring in 2026, because the rumors swirling around Citizens Bank Park right now are absolutely explosive. And Major League Baseball just threw everyone a curveball that's going to change baseball as we know it. Buckle up, because this is going to be one wild ride through everything happening with our Philadelphia Phillies. And trust me, you're going to want to hear every single word of this. First things first. A massive thank you to everyone who's been riding with the Phillies Focus since we launched back in May of 2025. You guys have been absolute. This year is going to be bigger, better, and more exciting than ever before. Your support means absolutely everything, and I'm committed to bringing you the best Phillies content on the entire platform. So if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button right now, because you're not going to want to miss a single update as this season unfolds. Now let's get into the absolute chaos that's brewing, starting with a revolutionary change that's going to transform baseball forever. If you thought the pitch clock was dramatic, wait until you hear about what's coming to every single Major League Baseball stadium in 2026. We're talking about the ABS system, the automated ball strike system. And this isn't some far-off concept anymore. This is happening right now this season, and it's going to affect every single pitch, every single at-bat, and every single game our Phillies play this year. Here's how this game-changing system works, and pay close attention because this is fascinating stuff. Each team gets exactly 2 challenges per game, not 2 challenges per inning, not 2 challenges per at-bat, 2 challenges for the entire 9 innings of baseball. These challenges can only be used to dispute ball and strike calls made by the home plate umpire. Now here's where it gets really interesting. If you challenge a call and you're right, you keep that challenge. Your team still has 2 challenges available. But if you're wrong, that challenge is gone forever. Lose both challenges early in the game, and you're stuck with whatever the umpire decides for the rest of the night, no matter how questionable the calls might be. The strategic element here is absolutely crucial. You can't just throw a challenge flag because you're frustrated with a borderline pitch in the second inning. You need to think about the long game. What if you're in the bottom of the 9th, bases loaded, 2 outs, and your star hitter gets rung up on what looks like ball 4? If you wasted your challenges earlier on calls that didn't really matter, you're out of luck in that critical moment. The pressure is real, and the stakes have never been higher. But here's another twist that makes this even more intriguing. Only 3 people on the field can actually initiate a challenge. The batter standing in the box, the pitcher on the mound, and the catcher behind the plate. That's it. No managers running out of the dugout, no fielders signaling from shortstop, no coaches making the call from the bench. It's all on those 3 players in the moment to decide whether a call is worth challenging. Talk about pressure. This isn't some untested technology being rushed into the big leagues either. The ABS system has been battle-tested extensively throughout the minor league system over the past several years. Remember watching spring training last year? The system was there. Caught any AAA games? They've been using it. The 2025 All-Star Game. Yep, ABS was calling balls and strikes. Major League Baseball and Commissioner Rob Manfred have spent years working out the kinks, addressing concerns, and perfecting this technology before bringing it to the show. They're confident it's ready for prime time, and that confidence is backed by thousands of real game applications. So what does our fearless leader Rob Thompson think about all this? The Phillies skipper is actually pretty optimistic about the whole thing, and his perspective is really enlightening. Thompson recently opened up about the ABS system, revealing that he's planning extensive conversations with the Phillies minor league coaching staff, particularly the AAA coaches who have firsthand experience managing games with this technology. These are the guys who know the ins and outs, who've learned through trial and error when to challenge and when to hold back, who understand the psychological warfare of making an umpire's call get overturned in a crucial moment. Thompson had some great things to say about his initial experiences with the system. From his observations during spring training, he genuinely liked what he saw. More importantly, he noted that the players seemed to embrace it too, which is huge because player buy-in is absolutely essential for something this significant. Sure, there are always going to be some old school guys who resist change, who long for the days when baseball was just baseball without all these technological interventions. Thompson acknowledged that reality, noting that a few players weren't completely sold on the idea, but the overwhelming majority, they're on board, and that's what matters. Think about what this really means for the game we love. How many times have we watched in absolute frustration as our Phillies got squeezed by an umpire having an off night? How many games have potentially been decided by a missed strike three call or a ball four that should have been strike one? We've seen star players ejected from games after arguing balls and strikes, leaving fans who paid good money to see them play feeling cheated and disappointed. Imagine little Tommy sitting in the stands with his Bryce Harper jersey on, watching his hero get tossed in the first inning over a blown call. That kid's entire experience is ruined, and it didn't have to be that way. The ABS system has the potential to eliminate so much of that frustration. It brings objectivity to the most subjective part of baseball. It keeps star players in games where they belong. It adds a whole new strategic layer to the chess match between managers, between pitchers and hitters. This isn't just about getting calls right, although that's obviously important. It's about making the game more fair, more exciting, and more engaging for everyone involved, from the players on the field to the fans in the stands to all of us watching at home. But let's shift gears now, because there's something else happening that's got the entire Phillies community buzzing with excitement, and it's all about honoring one of the greatest players in franchise history. We're talking about none other than Chase Utley, the Silver Slugger himself, the man who defined what it meant to be a Philly for an entire generation of fans. If you grew up in the 2000s watching Phillies baseball, Chase Utley wasn't just a player, he was the player. The heart and soul of those incredible teams, the guy who played every single game like it was Game 7 of the World Series, the second baseman who made the impossible look routine. For so many young players coming up through youth leagues and high school ball during that era, Chase Utley was the guy to emulate. His approach to the game, his intensity, his fundamentals, his leadership, everything about his game was worth studying and copying. Kids all over the Delaware Valley were modeling their stance after Utley, trying to turn double plays just like he did, bringing that same relentless competitive fire to every single at-bat and every single play in the field. He was more than just a baseball player. He was an inspiration and a role model. Now, Chase Utley is in his third year of eligibility for the Baseball Hall of Fame, and the momentum building around his candidacy is absolutely incredible. This is where things get really exciting for everyone who bled red pinstripes watching those championship teams. When Utley first appeared on the ballot back in 2024, he received just under 29% of the vote. Respectable for a first-year candidate, but nowhere near the 75% threshold required for enshrinement. The following year, in 2025, that number jumped to nearly 40%, a significant increase that showed voters were starting to recognize what Phillies fans had known all along, that Chase Utley belongs in Cooperstown. But here's where it gets absolutely wild. Early returns from the 2026 ballot, and we're talking about a preliminary sample of votes that have been made public, show Utley sitting at over 64%. That's right, 64%. Now, before we all start planning the parade route to Cooperstown, it's important to understand that these early numbers typically drop once the full ballot is revealed. Voters who make their choices public early tend to be more progressive in their Hall of Fame philosophy, more willing to embrace modern analytics and newer ways of evaluating player value. The private voters, the ones who hold their ballots close to the vest until the official announcement, tend to be more traditional in their approaches. So realistically, when all the votes are counted, that 64% is probably going to come down. Chase Utley almost certainly won't be inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2026. But here's what's important. The trend line is unmistakable, from 29% to 40% to what will likely be somewhere in the low to mid-50s when everything shakes out. That's sustained, significant growth. That's a player whose candidacy is building momentum year after year. That trajectory suggests that while 2026 might not be the year, Chase Utley is absolutely on track to become a Hall of Famer in the very near future, possibly as soon as 2027 or 2028. What makes this even more interesting is how the Hall of Fame landscape has shifted in recent years. There was a time when Jimmy Rollins, Utley's double play partner and fellow Phillies legend, was considered the more likely Hall of Famer between the two. Rollins had the MVP award, the significant counting stats, the flash and flare that traditionally appealed to Hall of Fame voters. But as the voting body has evolved and analytics have become more widely accepted, Utley's case has actually proven to be stronger. His peak performance years were absolutely elite, his defensive value was immense, and his overall contribution to winning baseball is undeniable when you dig into the advanced metrics. Jimmy Rollins is still on the ballot too, and he absolutely could still make it to Cooperstown. His candidacy hasn't gained the same momentum as Utley's, but he's got time and a legitimate case. The fascinating thing is watching these two franchise icons, guys who played side by side for so many years, now competing in a different kind of race to see who reaches the Hall of Fame first. For Phillies fans, the dream scenario is both of them making it, eventually, ideally going in together the way they always played the game, as partners and brothers in baseball. For anyone who watched Chase Utley play, who remembers those incredible teams, who felt the electricity at Citizens Bank Park during those magical playoff runs, his eventual Hall of Fame induction is going to be an incredibly emotional moment. This is a player who gave everything to this city, who embodied Philadelphia baseball in every way possible, who never took a playoff and never backed down from any challenge. Seeing him get that call from Cooperstown, seeing him give his induction speech, seeing his plaque hang forever among the greatest players in baseball history, it's going to be a moment Phillies fans will never forget. Now let's talk about something that has massive implications for the Phillies' immediate future, something that could reshape the entire infield and change the trajectory of this franchise as it chases that elusive World Series championship. We need to talk about third base, we need to talk about Alec Bohm, and we need to talk about a name that might surprise you, Isaac Paredes. The Alec Bohm situation has been one of the most complicated storylines surrounding this Phillies team for quite some time now. Bohm is a talented player, there's no question about that. He's shown flashes of brilliance at the plate, put up solid offensive numbers, and had stretches where he looked like a cornerstone piece of this lineup. But there are questions, defensive questions, consistency questions, and now with Bohm entering the final year of his contract before free agency, organizational questions about whether he's truly the long-term answer at the hot corner. Bohm's name has been floated in trade rumors repeatedly. The Phillies are a championship caliber team with a limited window, and they're not going to hesitate to make moves if they believe it improves their chances of winning it all. Whether it's this offseason, at the trade deadline in July, or after the 2026 season when Bohm hits free agency, change could be coming at third base. The Phillies could trade Bohm away. They could let him walk in free agency and decline to make a qualifying offer. They could pursue a free agent like Alex Bregman, who remains unsigned at the time of this recording, or they could do something completely unexpected and pursue a trade for a controlled asset who could man the hot corner for multiple seasons. Enter Isaac Paredes, the Houston Astros 26-year-old third baseman who's been making waves and whose name has been connected to the Phillies in recent trade speculation. Now, before we go any further, let's be crystal clear about what we're discussing here. This isn't a done deal. This isn't even a confirmed rumor from insiders. But the idea of the Phillies pursuing Paredes makes a ton of sense from multiple angles, and it's absolutely worth breaking down why this could be a move that works for everyone involved. Paredes is an intriguing player with a unique skill set. He's not going to wow you with his batting average. He's a career .237 hitter, which is below what you'd ideally want from an everyday player. But batting average doesn't tell the whole story anymore, especially in modern baseball where on-base percentage, slugging, and power production matter just as much, if not more. Paredes actually posted a career-high .254 batting average in 2025 with the Astros, which in today's offensive environment is actually pretty solid. Pair that with a .352 on-base percentage and a .450 slugging percentage, and you're looking at an .809 OPS, which translates to above-average offensive production. The power is real with Paredes. He smashed 31 home runs with 98 RBIs back in 2023 with the Tampa Bay Rays, showing legitimate middle-of-the-order pop. This past season, he hit 20 home runs in just 102 games before a hamstring injury cost him significant time. Do the math on that pace over a full season, and you're looking at another potential 30-plus home run campaign. For a Phillies team that's always looking to add right-handed power to balance out their lefty-heavy lineup, Paredes fits that bill perfectly. Defensively, Paredes is solid, if unspectacular. His .975 fielding percentage at third base was above the league average, which means he's reliable and won't kill you with errors, but he's not winning Gold Gloves either. He'll make the routine plays, handle the position competently, and not become a liability. In today's game, that's actually pretty valuable. You don't need every position to be manned by a defensive wizard. You just need guys who won't hurt you, and Paredes clears that bar. Here's what makes Paredes really attractive from a Phillies perspective: control. He's not a free agent until 2028, which means whoever acquires him gets 2 full seasons of cost-controlled production before having to worry about losing him to the open market. For a Phillies team that's already committed massive money to long-term contracts and needs to be smart about managing payroll while staying competitive, getting 2 years of a productive player at a reasonable salary is incredibly valuable. It gives them flexibility to make other moves, it gives them certainty at a position, and it gives them time to develop internal options or plan for the next phase. The injury history with Paredes is worth noting, but not necessarily concerning. That hamstring injury that limited him to 102 games in 2025 was significant enough to keep him out for a while, but the Astros have indicated they expect him to be fully healthy and ready to go for spring training. He's young enough that recovery shouldn't be an issue, and hamstring injuries, while tricky, aren't typically career-altering when properly rehabbed. The Phillies would obviously want to do their due diligence with medical evaluations, but there's no indication this is a chronic problem that should scare teams away. Paredes has also shown positional versatility throughout his career, with experience at first base, second base, and shortstop, in addition to his primary position at third base. That kind of flexibility is gold for a manager like Rob Thompson, who values having players who can move around the diamond as needed. If the Phillies ever needed to shift defensive alignments, rest a player, or cover for an injury, Paredes gives them options that a strict one-position player doesn't provide. Now let's talk about what a potential trade might look like, because this is where it gets complicated and interesting. The Phillies would need to put together a package that convinces Houston to part with a controlled, productive player who's been an all-star the past 2 seasons. That's not going to come cheap. We're talking about prospects, possibly major league-ready talent, maybe even a current roster player to make the money work. The Astros aren't just going to give Paredes away for spare parts. One scenario that's been floated is a swap centered around Alec Bohm himself. Could the Astros have interest in Bohm as a replacement for Paredes? It's not impossible. Bohm is the same age, also entering his final year of control, and offers his own offensive upside. If Houston thinks they can unlock something more consistent from Bohm, or if they simply view him as equivalent value and want to shake up their own roster, a Bohm for Paredes framework could make sense for both sides. Add in some prospects to balance out any perceived value difference, and you've got the bones of a deal. Alternatively, the Phillies could trade Bohm elsewhere to a third team entirely, then turn around and use the pieces they acquire in that deal as part of a separate package to Houston for Paredes. This kind of 3-way maneuvering happens all the time in baseball, especially when teams are trying to maximize return while addressing multiple needs. It's more complicated to execute, but it's absolutely within the realm of possibility for a smart front office like the one in Philadelphia. There's also the timing question. Does this happen this offseason? The winter meetings have come and gone, spring training is approaching rapidly, and most of the big moves have already been made. It's possible, but perhaps less likely at this point, unless something unexpected shakes loose. The trade deadline in July becomes a more realistic target, especially if Bohm is struggling or if the Phillies decide they need an upgrade to make a legitimate World Series push. Or this could be something that happens after the 2026 season, when Bohm hits free agency and the Phillies have a clear hole to fill at third base going into 2027. What's most important to understand is that the Phillies are not sitting still. This front office has shown repeatedly that they're willing to be aggressive, to make bold moves, to shake up the roster if they believe it makes them better. They traded for players at the deadline. They've made significant free agent signings, and they're constantly evaluating how to improve this team. If Dave Dombrowski and his staff believe Isaac Paredes is an upgrade over the current situation at third base, and if the price is reasonable, don't be surprised if they pull the trigger on something. The other factor to consider is the pressure this organization is under right now. The Phillies have made the playoffs multiple years in a row. They've got one of the highest payrolls in baseball. They've assembled a roster full of all-stars and big-name players, and yet they still haven't won the World Series since 2008. That drought weighs heavy, and everyone from ownership to the front office to the manager to the players feels that weight. Every decision is being made through the lens of, does this help us win a championship? If Paredes is viewed as a piece that increases those odds, even marginally, the Phillies will seriously consider making it happen. It's also worth noting that the third base position has been somewhat of a revolving door for many teams around baseball. Very few teams have a locked-in, unquestioned superstar at the hot corner the way some positions enjoy stability. Most teams are mixing and matching, trying different solutions, searching for that right combination of offense and defense. The Phillies are no different. They've given Bohm every opportunity to claim the job as his own for the long term. And while he's been good, the question remains whether good is enough for a team with championship aspirations. Imagine a lineup that features Isaac Paredes hitting right-handed power in the middle of the order, protecting guys like Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, providing that balance that makes it harder for opposing pitchers to game plan against. Imagine the flexibility Rob Thompson would have with a player who can move around the infield if needed. Imagine having 2 more years of certainty at the position rather than facing potential free agency chaos after this season. That's the vision that makes this rumor so compelling, and that's why Phillies fans should absolutely be paying attention to how this situation develops. Of course, there are counter-arguments. Bohm could have a monster year in 2026 and make this entire conversation moot. He could prove that he is indeed the answer, sign a long-term extension, and become a cornerstone of this franchise for years to come. That's absolutely still on the table. Or the Phillies could decide that Paredes isn't worth the price, that the upgrade isn't significant enough to justify what they'd have to give up, and they explore completely different options. Maybe they go hard after a free agent. Maybe they promote someone from within the organization. Maybe they stand pat and run it back with the current roster. What we do know is this: the Phillies are always looking to get better. Third base is a position without long-term clarity, and Isaac Paredes is a name that makes sense in multiple ways. Whether it happens or not, the fact that it's being discussed tells you everything you need to know about where this organization's mindset is right now. They're not content to be good. They're not satisfied with making the playoffs and bowing out. They want to win it all, and they're going to explore every possible avenue to make that happen. As we head into 2026, Phillies fans have so much to be excited about and so much to watch. The ABS system is going to add a whole new dimension to every single game, changing strategy and potentially changing outcomes in ways we can't even fully predict yet. Chase Utley's Hall of Fame case is building momentum and getting closer to that magical moment when one of the franchise's greatest players gets the ultimate honor. And the third base situation, whether it's Bohm, Paredes, or someone else entirely, is going to be one of the most fascinating storylines to track all season long. This team is loaded with talent. They've got the pitching, they've got the hitting, they've got the defense, and they've got the manager who knows how to put it all together. The pieces are in place for something special to happen in 2026. The question is whether the front office can fine-tune those final details, whether the players can stay healthy and perform to their capabilities, and whether this is finally the year the drought ends and a championship parade rolls down Broad Street once again. So there you have it, everything you need to know as we kick off this incredible 2026 season. Make sure you're smashing that like button right now if you're excited about what's coming this year. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Are you Team Bohm or Team Paredes? Do you think Chase Utley gets into the Hall of Fame this year, or does he have to wait a little longer? How do you feel about the ABS system and the challenge system coming to Major League Baseball? I want to hear all your thoughts and opinions because that's what makes this community so special. And if you haven't already subscribed to Phillies Daily, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a single update, breaking news story, trade rumor, or game analysis. We're going to be here every single day bringing you the best Phillies content on the platform, and you're not going to want to miss a second of what promises to be an unforgettable season. Thank you again for being here, for supporting this channel, and for being the best fans in baseball. Here's to 2026. Let's go Phillies.